This is Jonathan Yates with the Wine Channel. Welcome to Capitol Hill for the Bipartisan Appeal Wine with Representative Dan Newhouse from the heart of wine country in the great state of Washington. Congressman, thank you for taking the time today.
Well, I appreciate being with you.
So it's 60 degrees and sunny today in the Yakima Valley, which means it should be a great harvest. You're a third-generation farmer from that region. What's it like working in Congress where half the members are lawyers?
Frustrating at times. You know, we're very much outnumbered. I think the number of farmers and ranchers in Congress, the U.S. Congress, out of 535 people is maybe 15 or 18 of us. And so that makes it particularly important for us to be able to tell the story of agriculture. And we really rely on people from home coming to Washington, D.C. to help us tell that story, because people are losing touch with the land. It used to be generations ago that most Americans lived on farms and understood. It's not the case today. A lot of people certainly live in urban areas. Fewer people run our farms and ranches, and so it leaves a big responsibility on our shoulders to be able to tell our story.
So what made you decide to run for office?
Well, lots of things. I grew up in a political family. My father, Irving Newhouse, was in the state legislature for 34 years, and I'm happy to point out, very proud of the fact that there's an office building named in his honor in Olympia. But I grew up in a family that we learned the importance of public service at a very early age, and certainly learned about some of the issues that were going in this, because Dad was involved in it almost from as long as I can remember. And so I kind of had a natural upbringing in it.
So did your father's background in agriculture and public service help you succeed as a congressman?
Well, I hope so. I think I learned a lot from him, certainly from farming, I can say for sure. I paid attention to what had to be done on the farm at the right time. You know, timing is very important. And I think I learned a lot about how to work with people from my father, who was known in Olympia for working across the aisle, and I try to do the same thing.
Now, you actually grow grapes on your farm, so how does that help you in dealing with issues having to do with the wine industry?
I grow grapes, we raise hops, we raise tree fruits, some field crops. I think that you know, I know firsthand the challenges, some of the difficulties that farmers in general have, but certainly wine grape growers have as well, because you know, I live them every day. Things from overregulation in different areas, from shortages of water to the difficulty of obtaining adequate labor, all of the different things and more that farmers face on a daily basis. That's my life.
Now, did growing grapes, has that taken the romance out of the wine industry for you?
Has it taken the romance
Yes.
out? Oh, I think there's a lot of romance in agriculture, in the actual farming of the grapes, because you're having to you're trying to get the earth to produce a fine product, and that just doesn't happen accidentally.
No.
There's a lot of things that have to be done. Like I said, timing is very important on a lot of those things too. It's quite a craft to be able to grow quality products, particularly wine grapes.
Now, I come from a long line of farmers on both sides of my family. Both my parents grew up on a farm in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, and I always learned from them that farmers were the first environmentalists. Do you feel the same way?
You've stolen my line. I actually like to say we're the original conservationists. We depend on the land, and so it's very important to us to be able to make sure we take care of it, because we not only make our living off the land, but we anticipate passing it on to our heirs and make sure our children, our grandchildren will have the same opportunities that we had because of the bounty of the land. So we want to take care of it, and in fact make it better than it was when we got it.
So what can the wine industry do to help the environment?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. Being a responsible farmer, being a responsible member of the agricultural community, there's a lot of things that we can do and work toward in being a responsible environmentalist, conservationist. We certainly, in the wine grape industry particularly, are great stewards of one of the most precious commodities, and that's water. Almost every wine grape grower that I can think of uses drip irrigation for wine grapes, which, as you know, practically spoon feeds
Yes.
water to grapes, a very judicious use of a very precious resource. You would be hard pressed to find erosion coming off of vineyards for a lot of the reasons because of the irrigation practices.
You were very active on water issues up here in Congress. Have the other members of Congress turned to you for your expertise in that area?
I'm beginning to see a lot of that happen. You know, and I can tell you, not all because of what I've done, but because of some successes that we've had in Central Washington. We just were able to get passed in the latest lands package the Yakima Basin Enhancement Project.
And how will that help the wine industry in that area?
Well, it will help the wine industry, but also help all of agriculture in the central part of Yakima, particularly the Yakima Valley in central part of Washington. It's looked at as a model for the rest of the country to follow. Other parts of the country have issues with water. California, for instance.
Yes.
We have too. But we've been successful in keeping a diverse group of people that have quite varied interests together at the table working for over 10 years to come up with a plan where we can enhance the availability of water in the Yakima Valley for all the purposes that are necessary. So that's been an exciting thing. And because of that success, you're right, other people are looking to me and others from Washington for how to do that.
And you're co-chair of the Food Recovery Caucus. Are you able to use that for the water issues and the other ag issues in Washington?
Well, that goes hand in hand with being not only responsible producers, but responsible consumers as well. You know, I think upwards of 40% of the food that's produced is wasted, not put to good use, and that's something that we need to work on to improve the availability of that quality product. We work so hard to produce, and we have a lot of hungry people in this country.
Yes. You know, the greatness of the Washington wine industry is a wonderful story. How much has the government had to do with that, working hand in hand with the private industry?
Well, that's a great question. I think we can point to some of the successes that we've had in the wine grape industry because of the strong help that we've gotten from government in providing research capabilities, allowing some of our research universities to really do a lot of work that has helped us advance as an industry. And so that's a real bright spot that we can point to. Washington State University, for instance, has done a lot of really important things to help us shine in a very competitive world market. And talking about the issue of water, certainly the government, both the state and the federal government, have had a big hand in helping provide the infrastructure necessary for an agricultural industry to thrive and prosper in arid eastern Washington. And there's a lot of other things we could point to as well. Promotion, for instance,
Sure.
of those products, both domestically and around the world, have really given us greater marketing opportunities that have allowed us to be successful.
So do you think that the lack of a signature grape hurts the Washington wine industry? Oregon has the Pinot Noir, California has Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, even Virginia has the Norton. But you know, when you think of Washington, some people say maybe the Syrah, but you know, Chateau Ste. Michelle produces 2 million cases of Riesling a year, more than anyone else. So do you think that not being able to look at a signature grape for the state has hurt the wine industry at all?
You know, I haven't seen it as a negative. I think the state of Washington is known for being able to grow a wide variety of different grapes, and so it's a strong region for producing whites, but certainly reds as well. So I think that's a real plus.
As I was telling you, they have a great Chardonnay, and I don't even like Chardonnay, but
right?
you know, they've got a wonderful dry. But how has nature blessed the state of Washington in being able to be such an agricultural?
You know, we're in a unique geographical area. Longitudinally, we are in the same area as some of the best wine-producing regions in Europe. The number of daylight hours that we enjoy in the Pacific Northwest.
What does that impact on wine when there's 17 and a half hours of daylight during the summer? How does that affect the harvest?
Well, I think it provides the plant the ability to utilize the sunshine to synthesize for a longer period of time during the day than perhaps and some of our friends in California are able to enjoy. And I think that that really does allow the plant to do its best.
Let me ask you a question about Eastern Washington. My cousin was a fighter pilot in the Air Force, and he did his survival training in Eastern Washington.
Oh, yeah.
How does an area like that produce some of the best wines in the world?
You know, anybody that's in the military that served any time in Yakima or in Eastern Washington remembers their experience very well, because it can be harsh.
Yes.
If you're out in the middle of the desert. But you know, one of the secrets to growing quality wine grapes is you want to stress those plants.
Yeah, got to produce the sugar.
And you can do that in some of our warm summer days, but also with those cool summer nights. And the ability to really, like I said, spoon feed the water to the plants, we can really dial down these extraordinary flavors that we can produce.
So I grew up in Annapolis, and there was this great lacrosse bar called Charlie's. And as a teenager, I thought it was heaven on earth because we could get in and no one would card us. And then when I lived in Kirkland, Washington one summer, I went to Woodinville for the first time, and I realized that, you know, the mothership had landed. That was truly the best thing in the world. What is the sheer genius behind Woodinville, where somebody realized, let's bring together over 100 wineries in one area 19 miles north of Seattle to serve the population? I mean, if that doesn't show the government and the private sector working together like nowhere else in the world, I don't know what does.
Well, it's truly bringing the Washington wine industry to the good folks on the western side of the state in a very convenient way for them to get out and enjoy Washington wine. But the great thing is, though, Jonathan, Eastern Washington is really maturing so that we're able to accommodate and welcome a lot of people from the west side, and we do on a regular basis. Thousands of people make the trek over to Eastern Washington to enjoy wine, and not just the drinking experience, but to be out in the vineyards themselves, to be at the wineries. So it's the best of both worlds.
Well, it seems like the political leaders like you are trying to bring wine to everybody. You know, you have a great wine program at Walla Walla Community College, so people can go out after 2 years and open their own winery. You have almost 1,000 wineries, and the second largest grape producer in the United States with only 7.5 million people. So, I mean, has there been a concerted effort by the government in Washington to bring wine to everybody, not just for the elite?
Oh, I think absolutely. In fact, you know, that's one of the things that we're known for. You're talking about all the different kind of varieties of grapes that we can produce and do a good job at them. But we can also, we have the reputation of getting a high quality bottle of wine for not a real high price.
No, there's no question about that.
So there's value into what you buy from the state of Washington.
And so do you think that that was a part of the legendary Dr. Stribley case, where he, you know, was nailed for bringing wine in from San Francisco to evade the 75% tariff in the state of Washington, and then he wrote that letter to Seattle Magazine talking about the only reason we have this law is to protect wine that is not worthy of protection? So was it the private sector forcing its hand, the invisible hand of the market, as Adam Smith would say?
Well, it could be. It could be. I just know that the proof is in the pudding. That we can stand. Washington State wines, I think, stand up to wines produced anywhere in the world. They truly do. And I know most all of the wine grape growers. We have some people that are really dedicated to what they're doing. The industry itself has grown substantially over the last couple of decades, as you know.
Have you seen it become more professional?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Their presence in the industry, their presence even coming to Washington, D.C. to advocate for the things that they need to help keep them and make them more successful is truly grown. And so absolutely a more professional industry.
You know, having worked on the Hill for over a decade, I'm a huge fan of Congress. I mean, do these people in the Washington Wine Association, did they realize how approachable someone like you is to them, and what an excellent staff you have, and that they can bring their concerns and their issues to you, and you will jump on it and be very helpful?
Oh, I think so. I think so. Things like the Wine Caucus that we formed here in Congress, those are the kinds of things that bring the industry close to members of Congress. It's something that's not hard to get people to engage in. People like the wine industry overall.
Oh, very much so, yes.
Yeah. It's a popular thing for lawmakers to engage with. And I think the wine industry in Washington and other states understand that and have been very good about being able to bring their case.
Were you very pleasantly surprised to find out there was a congressional wine caucus in Congress?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's there's a caucus for almost any idea.
But you guys have 150 members, and not every caucus has anything even close to that.
Well, like I said, it's a popular thing to be associated with, and rightfully so. It's not only fun, but you get a lot of fun people together.
Hey, so let me ask you a question. You know, you're from out in eastern Washington. So what would have happened last night if it had been Gonzaga playing Washington State for the champion?
That would have been a no-brainer. I'm a Cougar through and through.
Now, the Cougars have got it going on. You know, they hired a great athletic director in Patrick Chung and a great deputy athletic director in Brian Blair. So I expect great things for the Cougars. So let's go back to an easy question for you. What are your favorite Washington wine memories?
So that's a great question. You know, I'm kind of a history buff, and not to take anything away from Dr. Walter Clore. He's the father of the Washington wine grape industry. He deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to do for us. But I had the good fortune, when I was probably 8 or 10 years old, I met what some people refer to a person who's the grandfather of the Washington wine industry, W.B. Bridgman, who planted some of the very first grapes in Washington State over 100 years ago. Was really ahead of his time, planting vinifera grapes in the 1910 to 1920 period, and producing wines that the American people really weren't ready for. So his success as a winery was limited, but really helped get the industry started.
And so did he help deal with your dad much when your dad was in the legislature, or?
When I met Mr. Bridgman, it was probably in the mid-60s, and he was quite elderly by that point. So he was in a generation before my father.
So when you were in the legislature, you know, it's a part-time legislature in Washington, what was the transition like to coming to full-time Congress? I mean, I had another member of Congress on my show, and he said he was coming from a state legislator, and he thought that his brilliant oratorical skills at a latter-day Cicero would just move everyone. You know, you have an excellent staff here. I'm guaranteed you didn't have much of a staff back in the state legislature. So how was the transition here to Congress from a part-time state legislature?
Well, I'll tell you what I tell people. Most of my farm friends understand this. I tell people it's like the harvest time. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I mean, the schedule is got you going all day long, and it's a busy thing. It's an all-consuming thing, and so it's exciting, a lot of work. But you're right, a lot of people are here to help me get the job that I need to get done.
Well, it's a good thing you've got the Congressional Wine Caucus to help you relax.
It takes a little wine to get this done, too.
Hey, well, let's cork this episode of the Bipartisan Appeal of Wine. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you very much.
This is Cheers from the Wine Channel. Jonathan Yates, thank you for joining us.